Welcome to the Yvonne Candy Show. Here is where we talk about topics for your health, business, finances, and more. And speaking about finances, our guest today is Ian Walsh, real estate guru from Hard Money Bankers. Ian is going to tell us how we can invest in today's real estate market and how you can borrow money for your next project. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Ian, what is the difference between hard money and private money?
Sure. Hard money is typically, there's not much of a difference, even though people think there is, other than the term hard money versus private money. But the reality of the situation is private money is usually maybe a local contact you have that you reach out to, and they might have a couple $100,000 saved up to lend you on a deal that you might be looking at for fixing and flipping. You call them up, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, and say, hey, do you want to do this deal or fund this deal for me? They usually hopefully say yes. They're typically not going to have the awareness of the market or be savvy enough to understand what funding a project really looks like. So the difference between private money and hard money is you're going to find a lower amount of capital typically in private money, where the person that has the private money will normally have a lot less than the hard money lender. Your average private money person probably has less than $1 million. Hard money lenders like us, we have well north of 30, 40 million any given time. So there's a substantial difference in the amount of capital available. And then your hard money lenders will also have the ability to understand how to properly structure a deal, what things need to look like when you go to closing. They're not going to shouldn't pull out on closing but prior to. And that's honestly is really not much of a difference. You're just talking about money transferring from one bank account to the other. Just people term private money versus hard money in the way they do, or they have an idea of it. I guess there's sometimes a little bit of a price difference, but not as frequently as people think.
Now, you and I know what fixing and flipping is, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know what you mean. Explain exactly what fixing and flipping is.
Yeah, sure. So everybody's probably seen HGTV, right? There's a lot of flip or flop type stuff. So
sure.
It's not really any different than that, except it's a lot harder than they make it look on TV.
Right.
So it's usually somebody coming in and buying a property that is undervalued, or not undervalued necessarily. The as-is value or the condition of the property is usually one that is either dated, run down, dilapidated, what have you. They're going to come in, they're going to be the recycler of the real estate market, fix it up, put money into it, and then sell it for a profit for their time and energy that they've put into it. And that's what a fix and flip is. At the heart of it, at the core of it.
Now, these properties don't qualify for traditional lenders, is that right?
Yeah, not really. I mean, some maybe small banks will consider it, but it's really not a banking market that deals with rundown properties. It's just not the world they're in. They're in the retail market, fixed up, pretty homes to live in for 30 years. These are definitely for private money type stuff where you're going to have to close quite quickly. A lot of times they're associated with a problem that has time connected to it, and then people have to close quickly. So that's one thing that you'll find is it's not really something that a bank is interested in. They want houses with roofs that have new kitchens and new bathrooms, whereas
Right.
Private money, I'm interested in a property that has no roof. So,
and a lot of these people, they get these houses, they don't have kitchens, they may not have a bathroom, they may not have a heating system. So these are the properties that they're looking to make money off of after they fix it up.
yeah. So the value really when you're lending on a construction project that needs construction and so forth, the value is obviously not in the price you're paying today. The value is how much is going to be worth when you add value to it. So
And
the
that's
ARV
the after repair value. That's the ARV.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the resale value on the open market at top dollar. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, traditional lenders are usually looking for a property that maybe if you're looking to buy a home to live in, that's what they're going to finance. However, I've heard of some programs where they will lend you some money to fix up, but that's more like cosmetic or a minimal fix-up type of thing. It's not a complete rehab where you're going to gut something out. Is that right?
Yeah. So you're talking more of like a construction loan on and usually a bank that's going to do that. For the most part, they're going to be more apt to do that for a primary residence, one that you're living in, versus a property you're picking up as an investor. That might be a little bit more in their realm of comfort from a banking perspective, but it is usually not for a major renovation for the most part. But an investment property is really, you're going to probably have to go to the secondary market like our money to get in that world.
All right. I just wanted to say that a secondary market, you usually don't have the Title Ones like it is for like a homeowner to fix up a property, or I guess they still have the FHA 203K programs. And,
Okay.
yeah,
Sure.
and they're usually for homeowners who's going to live in the property who needs some fixing up. So that's on the traditional end. But where you come in, Ian, you're more for the investor. So you're looking for, if you're looking for a property, let's say that you're going to just fix it up, and what you call flipping, you're just fixing it up and selling it to make a profit. And that's where you come in.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, not most, but a lot of the people we deal with, this is how they make a living. I mean, it's this is not what they do when they go home, even though they're dealing with homes. They're investors, they're flippers, landlords, and so forth. Those are the people that we, tend to deal with.
Do you think the market is coming back?
Coming back, the market's been here.
Okay.
the market has been here. Unfortunately, it's market's way overcooked right now, and it's due. It's very much due to pull back. So it's ready to pull back again, without a doubt.
So the prices are rising.
Prices are overinflated for sure.
Oh, wow.
It's overbuilt. There's way more supply than demand right now. And those are key indicators that the market's got to cool off. I think what you'll end up seeing is over the next 12 to 18 months, as the Fed raises interest and prices become, somebody who can afford a $400,000 house today can't afford that tomorrow because the price of money goes up, and now, they can only afford a $300,000 house, and that changes the flippers' exit strategy, and then you have oversupply. You have everybody and their mother right now building new construction. Well, if you have more houses than people want, then it becomes a buyer's market again. But right now we're well into a seller's market. I heard a really good quote yesterday, which is, we're 10 years into a 7-year cycle, so we're overcooked.
Because I hope this isn't like 2008 where the investors went wild and they were buying everything in sight, and then all of a sudden you had this bubble burst and things really turned sour for the investors, because a lot of investors lost money during that time.
Sure. So 2008 was a little different in our market than we may ever see in our lifetime again. Maybe the biggest transfer of wealth, certainly in real estate, that we'll ever see. But you're not going to have 2008 again, but you're going to have the market cool off. 2008 was very specific because the reason, it wasn't like the dot-com bubble back in 2000 that you had an outside industry affecting the real estate market and making it cool off a little bit going back into 2002 and 2003. What you had in 2008 was the actual inside the industry of real estate also affected real estate. So real estate was, in essence, a big part of the reason for the crash. So it really was like the perfect storm in 2008, where you have now, I don't see, there's too many people that got scars unless somebody, until people forget those scars exist, and they still remember, right? All the people I'm in business with, they know. They can still feel it now. So what'll happen most likely is it'll probably come from outside the industry. There'll be a catalyst that'll cool the top off a little bit. And as far as it being a good time to invest, sure. So I invest now. You just have to buy right. Like it's always a good time to buy if you know how to buy.
Exactly. I believe that.
But it's just not a time to be aggressive. I would say I wouldn't be aggressive right now. I would say know your numbers, know your formula, know what works for you. But people will buy right through the top and right at the bottom. It doesn't change.
Yeah, I think that it's always a good time to buy also. I believe in buying under market value.
Of course.
Yeah, if you buy under market value, it doesn't matter if the market's going to crash or not. You're going to be right there. You're going to be safe. And you really should buy for two reasons. It's either to make money on the rental, and the rent's got to be high, but still the mortgage balance can be a little low. But if you're right there, it's not going to really matter if you're getting high rents. I mean, some rents are like really ridiculous and the mortgage balances are really low. So usually they say that when the prices drop, then the rentals go up. So you're going to be in either way if you keep those two theories in mind. That's what I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
I always a really good rule for people buying rentals. I find is nationwide. It's an amazingly easy statistic that people should really account for, whether it's in an up or a down market. But they should buy it. Or I'm not saying they should buy. I would never. I'm not giving somebody investment advice, but I'm saying the way I buy is I'm always falling within the 50% rule of principal and interest versus the rent rate. And if you
right.
kind of use that in any given market, if my principal and interest is basically half of my rent rate, it keeps you safe even when you lose equity through a downturn or what have you. You still remain in a positive cash flow mode, which is extremely important, especially when you have quite a few properties. The multiplying effect of positive or negative cash flow is always present. So you need to be in that position.
Well, tell us a little bit about hard money bankers. What are the terms for getting a loan from you guys?
Yeah, so so I don't love to put the our terms out because it varies a little bit per
Mm-hmm.
person per situation. But I can tell you in the current market exactly or roughly where you'll be with whoever you speak with, whether it's me or you're going to see rates anywhere annualized from probably call it 12 or 13% as high as 16, 17. I've even seen 18% before. So anywhere from 12 or 13% up to 18. And then they usually charge, 2, 3, 4, up to 8 points on the loan itself at the table. And those are the rates that you're used to on a short-term basis. I usually explain to people that if you're flipping a house and you're doing it right and everything's going well and you know what you're doing, in 5 to 7 months you're usually out of a deal, and you're probably paying 10, 11% on your money. It is about where it's going to be. Every 100 grand will cost you about 10 or $11,000 to borrow from just about any kind of lender, give or take a couple bucks.
And how long is the term on your loans?
We don't go any longer than 12 months. Some people do as short as 6, but 12 is our niche, and that's our, you can close it out earlier. It's cheaper. The faster you are, the cheaper it is to use. But we'll go up to 12 months. That's the longest to go.
And what about prepayment penalties?
We don't have a prepayment penalty. We just ask that the loan stay open for 3 months. But we actually don't issue any kind of penalties or anything.
I know people who have used hard money for their investments,
Hmm.
and prior to using hard money, they were concerned about the high interest rate. You can't really be concerned about high interest because you're making money. That's if you're going to make $50,000, let's say, that's $50,000 more than what you had. So I don't really concern myself with the higher interest rates for hard money because it's a way to make money. Everybody makes money, and it should be enough money there when you go into these loans for everybody. But some of the people that I know have used hard money, they were very happy. They were happy because they actually made, I know one person made $100,000. If they spent $30 in the loan or whatever they spent, they thought it was well worth it because they made $100,000. So it's a good way to make money.
Yeah, it's a lot of people use it for leverage. I mean, you can't short-term capital. You can't really. Interest is really not a factor in the equation. Now, if you're paying, call it 13 or 14% over a 30-year mortgage, that's a different story. But the truth of the matter is, if you're paying $10 or $11,000 to use every $100,000 on short-term capital,
Right.
it's really you don't even notice it because A, you're making 40 or 50 on the back end, you're leveraging your money, and B, if you actually look at the amortization schedule of like a primary residence or whatever over 20 or 30 years, you're probably paying about $50 or $60,000 in interest over that same amount of money. So the distance of time is
Right.
significant. People get hooked on the wrong number there a lot of times. But you just leverage your capital, and that's what it allows you to do. It certainly allows people to have a lot more buying power in the game. That's what they use it for.
Now, when you want to use hard money and you're getting ready to purchase a property, what would be the best scenario can you give us for purchasing a property in order to get a loan with you guys?
With us, yeah. So we're truly asset based. We're a true by the book or old school lender where we're really looking at that asset, right? So 90% of what I look at every day, I'm underwriting the deal, not so much like the credit. I don't need your W-2s and tax returns. But everybody's a little bit different. But with us, it's very specific to the deal. So I always tell people the easiest thing that you can do is if you send me the address of the property, the construction numbers to renovate the property, and how much you're looking to buy it for. If I have those three things, because I know my market very well, I can usually tell you within 30 minutes where my numbers are going to fall. And then if I commit to my numbers, we'll close the deal within 48 hours if title's, ready to go. So that's honestly all I need. We keep it so simple.
Well, does credit play a part in this?
In a way. So the way it would go is I usually tell people I don't need fantastic credit to close it, but I can offset my risk in a few different ways if I have to, if your credit is low, because it brings in risk to this situation. Now, if it's a really good asset and a really good deal, I'll still find a way to make sense of it, whether I partner you with somebody that I know that we've loaned to before that can reduce the risk or what have you. There's a couple different ways I can reduce risk. So, A, if the deal is good, I'm going to find a way to get it done. B, if your credit is, a little dinged up, I might reduce my risk in a few different ways, but I'll still find a number to make sense on the deal if it's a strong deal. So it's really about the deal with the way we work.
I know some lenders, hard money lenders, that is, they will take a property that you already own, and they would use that as an asset if you're either a newbie or you have low credit scores. Is that something that you guys do?
Yeah, so the term we use there is cross-collateralized. We cross-collateralize another property. Actually, what happens is I have a lot of investors that use that to basically have no money down. So we talk about no money down investing. It really doesn't truly exist in the way it used to in 2007 before the bubble. But what you're speaking of is when you are an investor that maybe has 2 or 3 free and clear properties that maybe you paid $100,000 each for in cash, and let's say you have a loan you presented to me, you'd like to buy something, and you say, hey, I come back and say, hey, it's going to take maybe $30,000 in cash to close this. The investor would say to me, well, how about I let you place a first lien position on my other property? I paid $100,000. My answer is sure, no problem. Because to me, cash is either green or it's in sticks, right? So the cash is the same to me. It doesn't really matter. So I look at that, and then they offset it. They come to the table with no money, and it works perfectly fine. I have people that use their properties like a piggy bank, and they get the loan with us, no money down. Then they go ahead and, close out the loan. We release the lien position. They use it again on the next property, and they're effectively doing it with no money out of pocket at that point.
So would you say that if a person has a property, and this could be a property, could this be a property they live in or they don't live in? Either one?
It cannot be a primary residence, cannot be a property they live in. It has to be an investment property.
All right. So if someone has an investment property, they have no cash, they have poor credit, you can use this investment property to collateralize the other investment property. Is that it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I can tell you I've seen it done many times, and it works very well for both sides. Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. Give us a do and a don't as far as when you're buying investment properties. What should you look for, and what should you don't look for?
A do, buy a whole lot lower than you think than you should. I can tell you that you're probably, most people, I'll tell you what I see most frequently from people where they're wrong is they overestimate the end value on a property very frequently. So the do would be know your market and know how low you can go. The don't would be don't overpay and don't get a bad contractor. Those are the absolute pitfalls in what I see on both sides.
I think the best way that an investor could buy a property is make sure their comps are accurate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then that way they know the end value. And also to make sure that they have a backdoor, make sure that they have a way that they can get out of the loan, like refinance if something happens. Let's say they're a little delayed in finishing or whatever, because your loan is for like 12 months.
Right.
So they should have a way. It's really better, I think, that a person has decent credit, because that helps when you run into some, tight spots. But I think that if a person has their comps in order and they know exactly what a property is worth, and during the year, you actually have to do your comps more than once. I mean, just because you do your comps in the beginning doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing in a year. So if I was investing, I would definitely do my comps at least during the project, maybe 2 or 3 times, just to make sure I'm still on point. But that's the way I believe would be the safest way, so you know exactly where your money's going to wind up when it's all said and done. What would be one of the worst things that an investor can do when purchasing a property?
Besides overpaying,
Besides overpaying.
it does come down to that other part B on my thing earlier, which was a contractor. So I always say to people, like, be very realistic with your budgets that you have for contracting. Don't try to trick yourself into how much work you have to put into this, because if you go over budget or your contractor is not good and they take you over budget, it's the same thing as paying more for a property. So if you can get a property, you think maybe it is a slam dunk deal at $30,000 when you buy it, but if you go over your construction budget by $10,000, you might as well have just paid $40,000 for the property. It's the same thing. So, during the life of your loan, manage your construction very carefully and very tightly.
And what about references? What about references? I think that's very important, because some of these contractors out here, they say they can do things that they really can't do. They're just out to get the money.
Of course. You mean references from me or references in general?
I'm talking about for contractors.
Oh, sure, yeah. A really fantastic way to get the right contractor, for sure, is talk with another investor. And if you can get them to give you a guy that they trust, which is pretty hard to do, but if they do, that's usually a pretty, that's pretty much gold. Where you probably want to be very careful is, pulling them off the internet based on their advertisement. You don't know what you're stepping into. So references are huge.
I see contractors all around in my neighborhood as I'm out doing work. That's another way you can see if a contractor is really any good, because you're seeing them work on a property. Let's say they're doing stucco work or they're doing cement work or whatever. You can even stop and ask them if you can take a peek inside if they're doing a rehab, maybe putting a kitchen in even. So a lot of times I have stopped at a property and the contractors let me come in and look around. Not saying that they were supposed to do that, but I guess they thought that I can really see what type of work they do and I can give them a great referral. So I think that's another way to find a good contractor, is just see what kind of work other people are doing around.
Absolutely.
Now, can a homeowner also use your services?
In what capacity?
So let's say I'm a homeowner and my house needs fixing up. Can I go to you as a hard money lender?
No, unfortunately, our money has to be used for investment purposes only. That primary residence is a huge line in our industry, so it would really have to be used for investment purposes specifically. Okay,
so that's no refinances at all.
Not on a primary, yeah.
Okay, but you can do that on a secondary.
That's right. On an investment property, income generating type property, absolutely. Do that all the time, yep.
What states do you lend in, Ian?
We lend in Eastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and D.C. That's our market.
Okay. And do you have any referrals, like for the newbies out there, like for educational material, for any seminars, anything that you can give them to help them?
Sure. So a couple, locally in our market, I can tell you two different ones. So I always suggest to people, especially that are just getting in, to really invest themselves into the local real estate networking groups and events, which are there's some really good ones and some not so great ones. But if you spend enough time on that circuit, you'll really meet some fantastic people and get involved in really good groups. And you're always you don't realize how close you are to probably some of the most successful people in your current market, and you can learn a lot from that. The second thing I would say, that if you're not investing in or not going to those networking events, my business partners had built a REI360.net, which is a really good version of educational material and so forth, which is really fantastic. It's a really good resource for people. So between those two things, and then there's some good online forums, which are fantastic for people, like message boards and so forth, that I recommend. But honestly, most people you don't need a whole lot of, certainly shouldn't have to pay for a lot. And you can pretty much learn anything in this business within 2 months, and then it's a matter of figuring out how to execute it properly and repeating that.
Okay, and please let us know what your website is and how will someone get in touch with you.
Yeah, no problem. It's so our website is hardmoney, Bankers. So hardmoneybankers, one word, .com. And then to get in touch with me, you can directly, it's just my first name, IAN, at hardmoneybankers.com. Or you can call me, 215-839-3271. Any way like that works. Very responsive.
Okay, Ian, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for joining us on the Yvonne Candy Show. Please don't forget to visit us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.